Alright, so here we have a Stihl MS 260 Pro. It was seen in a couple videos I did. One where I was cutting with 018 and 400. It looks like it needs some maintenance though, doesn't it? Let's see what it looks like under here. Yeah, she's pretty yucky. I'm gonna get the air compressor set up and the vacuum. I'll vacuum when I can and then blow off what I can before I take the air filter off or anything. Alright, what does it look like under the cover? Take that off. So this saw's passed. It did not like to idle, like to stall. So I'd kind of like to check it out a little bit and see if, do a pressure test on it. Now I have a pressure tester. Why not, right? Yeah, I'll have to do some more blowing with the gun, but I'm gonna take this off, I believe, because this is just nasty. I want to blow that crap out of there. All right, T27. All right, so this thing is nasty, so I'm gonna take this off. Yeah, look at that. This is nasty. Take it apart a little bit and clean it, because she needs it. Here's what I was saying about Husky versus Stihl. It's easy to get the bar and chain off the Stihls. And then see if Stihl puts the clutch on the inside. And then they run this replaceable thing, so you don't have to replace the whole clutch drum. You can just replace this part here, right here. But Husqvarna says they keep this out for heat, but who knows? There could have been patents there too that they had to abide by. Good old nylon brush for this. It works pretty good. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of clean this as good as I can. I'm not taking too much apart, but I do want to do a pressure test on it because, as I said before, this thing was really, its whole life it's been pretty stally. Plus I can lubricate that bearing in here. I'm sure there's going to be one. Let's see how that works. It's just a brake. It stops the chain dead and it tracks. Can't imagine this spring's gonna be that easy to get off though. Let's see. That wasn't the worst. So I have to take this little E-clip. I have to spin it first. Like that. Make sure it don't go off flying. And now, since there's no spring on it, well, if I'm gonna go in here anyway to do that, bearing, I'll just take this off anyway. All right. There's stuff wrapped up in there. Right here, some grass. There's a little bearing that you should lube every now and then. There you go. There we go. Just pried it out like this. And put that with them parts too. And make sure that spring doesn't come off. Because if I start doing some blowing, she will come off. Time to do some blowing. All right, boys, ladies and gents. Got him off, eh? Now this is going to be tricky, isn't it? All right, so the Stihls you can get on this with a 19 on your socket. And since the flywheel didn't want to come off, I use it to hold it. Yeah, it moves the oiler. All right, I'm gonna try and keep cleaning here. Pumps right here, probably from here, I'm thinking. Drives it, pumps it up here to the bar. Whereas the Husqvarna one I worked on, that just used a rubber thing with a shaft and gear. So it didn't have like a whole pump set up like this. I guess the Husqvarna was a little simpler. Well, this is probably more bulletproof because it's more sealed, I would say. Alright guys, I got the flywheel loose. I put the nut on like this, and I used a punch. I don't have a brass punch, so I used this one. Just make sure the nut is on most of the way, but a little bit higher than the crank. And then I put this pad underneath like this, and I gave her a whack, a couple whacks, and she came off. So there's that. So now I gotta do some more blowing. Okay, I got it quite a bit cleaner. It's not perfect, it's not spotless, but I'll keep cleaning on it. But I want to get prepared for the pressure test. So to do that, I'm going to take the muffler off. Okay. That's an interesting design, huh? Definitely could stand to use some cleaning in there too. So far, almost everything's been T27 Torx. Good job, Stihl, on keeping this stuff the same, consistent fastener sizes. Really, this thing needed a good cleaning too. Might as well check the spark arrestor screen too while I'm at it. Why not? And how do I get it out of there? this, I guess. I could, a couple spots I could use a cleaning. I'll clean it before I put it back in. Looks pretty good. Let's go to the other side. The carb side. I blew it off pretty good. I mean, did an awful lot of blowing on here. Could this use a new air cleaner? Probably. I don't like the fact, why do they make that, the fibers on it, look like sawdust colored? It just doesn't make sense to me. The Husqvarna is the same way. Like, why would you do that? Okay, and here they got the carb tucked away in this hole. And that is not the coolest thing. Okay, the choke is here apparently, huh? Yeah, right here. It's on the air cleaner, which is probably going to make it quite a bit more expensive to replace it. Do they do that on purpose? I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, see, as I was saying in the Husqvarna 345 rebuild video, the Stihls run a different line. They run a separate impulse line from here and the crankcase there. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. Right in the back of the crankcase. It's like impossible to see on the video. And that runs to here. And that's what does your in and out, your pump, vacuum and pressure. And here's your fuel line. So I'm gonna have to get the fuel out of here. All right, so I'm gonna start doing some testing on this 260 Pro. You can see here it's mounted to the, I believe this is magnesium. Yeah. I don't think magnesium is magnetic. I don't think. I think it's the same as aluminum, but stronger. Let's see here. Yeah. It's definitely magnesium, though. The Pro saws have a lot more magnesium. So this is, bearings are actually mounted in the magnesium case. Okay, so what I did here, this is going to check. I have the vac, or the pressure tester, whatever, hooked to the fuel line. So this is gonna, if I put pressure on this, I'll do that. Maybe about 7 pounds, just like the crankcase. I think it's supposed to hold like, I don't know if it's 20 seconds, what Stihl wants. It's gonna check the fuel line all the way to the carb here. Then in the carb, it's going to check the metering valve to make sure that it's just like the float on a regular carb with a needle. It's going to check that and make sure that's holding, because that shouldn't open until I believe the gas gets there. When a pump pumps enough in there, it'll open it. And the pump is the part of the carb with the flaps, and it's going to be pumped by the crankcase. The piston going up and down is going to create vacuum and pressure. Okay, it's well over 20 seconds. So so you can say that the fuel line doesn't have any holes or cracks in it, and the metering valve, the needle, should be good. And it's probably set right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up for testing the vent here. This vent, as the fuel gets sucked down, it's got to let air in there to replace it. Otherwise, it would just collapse or just vapor lock or whatever. It would just get, it wouldn't be able to suck it up. It's got to be vented. It's like a one-way valve, like a diode in electrical. So it will leave air in to replace the gas going out to the carb, but it won't let gas or vapors or anything come out this way. I don't know if it uses a, what style it is, if it's like a duckbill or what, I'm not sure, but that's the vent right there. So I'm gonna set up to test that next. So for this I had to pull the fuel filter off, but I think I can throw him back on. This is also going to test the fuel cap, make sure it's not leaking, which a good indication would be letting fuel out, right? The fuel ones don't leak as much as the bar, because the bar just gets so much sawdust accumulation. So I think I'm going to try and get it like this. Yeah, that worked pretty good. Okay, leave them to do 7 psi again. These nozzles work pretty good because they fit almost everything. So it should hold 7 pressure, but it should not hold vacuum, because vacuum's gonna suck in, right? Let's see once. Let's see if I'm correct. I might just have a lot more volume to get. Yeah, I think it's just a volume problem here. I drained all the fuel out. If it had more fuel, it'd be less volume. So again, 7. I don't know if you can see very good. GoPros do not work good for close up. So that tells me that, well, we checked the fuel line already on the last test. But it's testing it again. It's testing the gas cap. Seams on the gas tank. Anything that would cause pressure to go down. It's holding pretty good. Now we are going to do vacuum test. However, I got fuel to deal with. I got to deal with the fuel first. I'm going to put a little pressure on it, not too much. Probably should have left the filter off, but live and learn, right? Okay, let's see if we can do a vacuum here. This should not hold. This should, if the valve is good, see, I got my finger in the valve now. Now watch. See that? It's venting. And watch when I let my finger go. You can hear it too. I'll put you close to it here. So what that tells me is all of the fuel tank aspect of it and the metering valve and the carb is good, should be. And that's a pretty new carb, so I didn't expect to have a lot of problems with it. Well, now that that's off, I want to do a pressure test on the engine, and that will test the crank seals. It'll test the intake manifold here. this will be sealed. Mostly the crank seals, and then impulse line. And that could be why Stihl has a part that you can put over this that seals it. They have their own seal. That'll actually tell you if your gasket's good between the carb and the intake manifold. That's what I call it. Alright, let's take this guy off. Always a faster way, right? Alright, so you can get the throttle shaft off without really removing anything. Impulse line, though, will start pulling slack here. So you just gotta kind of pop it off. I popped it off with this plastic gun cleaning tool. What's left here? There it is. I think that maybe it would be better to do this with this on and have this plate. I would think it'd be easier, quite a bit easier. So I'm gonna, on this one, because the impulse line is out here and hooks to the carb here, I have to plug the impulse line to do this test. But I have to make gaskets first. I'm gonna make them just like I did in the Husqvarna. I'm gonna make them custom. Like I'll make the exhaust one this size, and then the carb one this size. Just rubber inner tube. One thing I'll say though, Stihl versus Husky. Husky's way easier to work on the carb part because this is all open on there. At least on the 345. This being a pro Stihl, it could be different than the homeowner series, but the carbs are in this box here. But I wonder if they don't do that for keeping it cleaner and warmer for like winter use. Because I don't think this one has a, maybe it's got a window. I think this might be the window, yeah. Well, just looking at it, there's vents here, right? See them? Holes. And it's got the picture of the sun, which probably means summer. So you keep this in to not put heat into the carb area. So for winter use, you take this out and it will give you heat, from a little bit of heat from the engine. Probably from up in this area. From the flywheel spinning and stuff. Alright, I'm gonna make some seals for testing the pressure and vacuum for this. So I cut off this inner tube, this guy. It's a new inner tube that I pinched, so I'm just sacrificing it for this. Here is the muffler gasket, or exhaust, whatever you want to say. Now the outside can be bigger, so I'm not worried about the outside, and the center does not need to be cut out because you wouldn't want to. So I'm just going to kind of go like this. The real important part is the two holes for the studs. So I'm going to do the two holes first because a little more rigid right now. Alright, so I'm taking a punch that is, here's the bolt that goes in there. Whatever millimeter size it is. I'm going to a standard. This one should work right here, I'm thinking. So let's give her a little whack. Boom. Boom. I'll cut it out. Another thing too is I should find a different inner tube because this one's kind of curved right here. It's not really the best thing, but it should be fine. It'll suck in. So now it should match this, which is really dirty. It should match these holes. It's pretty good. So that'll work for that. Now I need the carb one. I should be able to get it off of here. So the carb one, so it goes in like this. I'm gonna make this pattern here. So for this, I just found this. I'm lazy. I don't want to go get some printer paper, newspaper, or whatever. Get my finger dirty a little bit. Maybe we'll outline this. Main thing is the holes, the outside, and the holes. See, white paper would work better, but I'm just lazy today, so cut that out. Okay, so we can get this guy on here. What I like to do is just tape it with Scotch tape so you can see through it. Okay. Okay, again, I'm going to punch the holes first. Find the punch. Let's see if it'll go on these studs. It will, so it's like the same size as the exhaust. Boom. Now we just cut it out. I want to make it a little bit bigger because it ain't gonna hurt nothing. It don't matter. I'll cut that seam off. And there it is. So that should fit right on here. Just like that. This isn't going to be easy with the impulse line, is it? No wonder why they make that block for it. Alright, I'm taking the screw out of the handle. It is a T20 or a flathead screwdriver because I want to get this off so I don't have to screw with that. With this, just get it right out of here. Just remember that this part goes to the carb right here. Okay, so let's do the exhaust. So I only need this. Like that. And it's the carbony ones, bolts. All right, putting these in. There, that's all blocked off. Now I need the spark plug out. And I don't even know if it's gonna be playing around with the carb because I don't know if it's gonna hold or not. Oh, geez, I'm on there. That looks decent. I can throw the flywheel on here just to turn it easy. Okay, so piston's approximately at bottom dead center. Doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be enough to have the ports open, but why not make it bottom dead center then? Okay, I'm putting this guy in here. I'm quite sure there's going to be an issue with the impulse line and stuff. So I think I'm going to need to block it off here. All right, let me play with this for a bit. All right, guys, so here's what I'm working on. What I need to do is the carb on there is not going to work because the impulse line, if you got the carb on, your impulse line this is blocking the impulse line. I need to block that off. So this Mighty Vac kit MV8500 comes with a bunch of plugs and stuff. So I'm going to use a plug like this in the impulse line. But what I need to do is replace the carburetor with something solid that I can just run the nuts on. See, the rubber thing's still on there, but it's going to leak because there's nothing pushing on it, right? So here's what I came up with. I think I could probably do a piece of metal that's thin, but then I have to come up with spacers so I can put the nuts on to put pressure on it. So this is, let's see here. This is about an inch thick, about, oh, inch and an eighth. I can definitely go a little bit wider than that. You know, inch and a quarter would be fine. But this is an inch. I'll just put like a couple nuts on or something. Well, let me look once. All right, I think I'm going to use this piece. It's inch. And then I'm looking to see how flat it is. If this is the outside, it don't matter. I need the inside fairly flat. So it looks pretty good. That's going to be sitting here, just putting pressure on that rubber. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I made the gasket with. Okay, I'm just going to do a punch mark, same as I used for the rubber. And that's going to give me the drill spacing. And then I will mark it with this. And just kind of go like that. That should be good. All right, so I drilled 2 holes and I am just doing this by hand. This is a tool that just uses a regular Sawzall blade. Works pretty good because you can just replace the blades on it whenever you want. I'm just using these putty knives for keep the jaws from digging into it. So it's not the prettiest thing, but as long as it works, right? Okay. So let's see if it'll go on there. I gotta make sure it's nice and flat here. It should be roughly the same size as the carb, one would think. Yeah, about. There we go. Alright, the washers. Alright, so my problem was the exhaust. It was leaking at the exhaust. So I put pressure on it and I would tighten this up. And all of a sudden, she started taking pressure, tightening it more, and now it is holding. I had that same thing on the Husqvarna too, where it wasn't holding and it was exhaust. Not tight enough. Let's let the decompression out. pump it again. This time I'm going to leave it for, let's see, 7 psi. Just a hair over. Okay, I'm going to leave it at 7. I'm going to leave it sit here for a few minutes. Okay, it lost about a needle width. I went out and drained a lizard and came back. That's probably a couple minutes. It lost about needle width, so I put it back to 7. I tightened both of these up a little bit, and let's see what happens. I'll let it sit for a few minutes. All right, we are still at 7. It's been a couple minutes with these a little bit tighter. Now, was it a waste of time to make this block? Well, maybe for you, but for me, I'm just gonna put it in my stuff with the rubber plugs or the rubber gaskets I made and stuff, and I'll just keep reusing it on different steels. But they do make an adapter that you go on there and you can hook your hose up to that. I don't know if it plugs the impulse line or not, but I think it's not a little bit pricey. This works too. Plus you eliminate the spark plug gasket from being bad, giving you a problem. I see it's still holding pretty good. Still at 7. So I'm gonna do a vacuum test. All right, so I put the flywheel back on, just kind of loose here. I put a mark here so I can get the piston back in bottom dead center. Is it that necessary? Not really. Just that the gauge is gonna bounce around as you're turning it. So you can kind of get it back in the same spot so you know if your needle's in the same spot. Okay, let's do vacuum. What turning this is gonna do is gonna simulate it actually running, so that the crankshaft actually turning while it is got the vacuum on it. The vacuum mainly checks the crank seals. And I'm gonna go to, so the 7 psi, so it would be 14 inches of mercury. Why they didn't make that psi as well, I have no idea. It's not holding vacuum. It's not liking vacuum. It's holding this much, 7, but it's only like 3.5 psi. If I go over that to 10, which is 5, look what happens. I ain't liking that. I want to leave it on here for a while. My battery is running out and my memory is running out here. I'm gonna leave it on for a while and then come back to it. All right, new battery and new memory card. So it's still got about 6.5. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit here around the seals. I'm gonna put oil on it because having 2-stroke oil going in there is a lot better than soapy water, isn't it? All right, first I'm gonna take off the oiler here because I want to be able to get in by that seal really well. Plus I can clean this up better. And hopefully this hose isn't brittle and break on me, but it does. It just means that it was gonna sometime anyway. I would have to say this is probably a better design than Husky, although I can't compare a Pro Steel to a like the 345 Husky I worked on. That's a homeowner saw, more like a farm and ranch, or more of a throwaway saw. So I can't compare it until I work on a professional Husky model. I'm just gonna leave it off like this. Now I can really get in here. Plus, if I have to replace the seals anyway, it's gotta come out anyway. All right, guys, what do you think? What's gonna leak? Is it gonna be one, the clutch side, flywheel side, or both? What do you think? Okay, so here I have some two-stroke oil. So let's put a vacuum on again. Yeah, it does not like anything more than 10. All right, let's get you a little closer. I'm gonna get you as close as I can. Now it's holding. Hear it? It's going down now. Let it know. I pulled in almost all that oil. So we have a vacuum leak. Okay, so we know that side's bad. Let me suck that up a little bit. Let's check the other side. All right, let's put some pressure on again, or vacuum it. You saw that how it was holding for a little bit, right? I think the oil was... the oil was sealing it a little bit. Yeah, I didn't hold in, but I don't see this one as being bad, but replace them both. Okay, I got back to pressure. Go back to 7. But it is actually leaking there a little bit too. Yeah, pressure is decent. It's definitely holding better pressure wise. Yeah, here's what's interesting. When I fill this cup up here, it'll hold the vacuum at the 14 for a little bit. And all of a sudden it'll start hissing there. See that? Oh, there's 15, but now just listen. There it goes. Sucking in the oil. Do you know what these 3 bolt holes are for? That is for the heating option. If you have the heated grips and carburetor and stuff, it provides the juice when the flywheel turns.